I'm doing excellent today. Thanks very much. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Look, I mean, I can see it already. I can see the shining face that is turning an Italian complexion, Bob. I'm not I'm you know what? There's two things I have to say to you. One, good for you. Two, why didn't I get an invite to Leesburg? That's the question.
Dan, this is a one-day softball, tan. That's I'm notorious. Spent a lot of time on softball fields in my life, whether it
Yeah.
was coaching on the travel side or the year I spent at West Point as the head coach. And I'm terrible at putting sunscreen on. Matter of fact, my players would always come up to me and, Coach Bob, you need to put something on. You're frying. And then yesterday, of all people, I had a couple of players come up to me and late in the day and say, "Hey, you probably need to put on some sunscreen." So I threw some on, but this is one day of sun down here in Florida. Right now, it's I'm not going to tell you that it's northeast weather, but it's overcast, 49 and raining down here today, so not so nice.
Yeah. I mean, I know the country is dealing with some interesting weather lately, but it's great to have you here, and it's great to be on the broadcast with you as always, Bob, and to be able to have this conversation that we can have this morning about this softball team because it's very poetic and very perfect how this all works out, and I say that because last week we had a double dose of the Dolphin Dive, and in that double dose of the Dolphin Dive, I had the opportunity of featuring Liz Bevel, who's doing a tremendous job starting off the season with women's lacrosse, and it was followed by the wonderful and awesome Tracy Roman, who is having had a fantastic giving day, and then came into this season for softball. And her and I were the last conversation about LeMoyne on the show, so it's great to dovetail these two things together in knowing that she told me, "Hey, we're playing a tough schedule. We're playing top 25 teams, and win, lose, or draw, I'm going to make my team, we're going to test ourselves, we're going to fight." And I would love to get your thoughts on that because Tracy did not shy away from scheduling some really incredible talent this year.
No, she doesn't. Generally doesn't. We had a conversation between games about that very topic yesterday, Dan. We lost the first game in extra innings. They went to international tiebreaker, which I detest, by the way. For the second year in a row, the extra innings against UIndy. UIndy, for the second year in a row, is a ranked opponent. Last year, I think they were ranked fifth when we played them and beat them down here in extras and via the international tiebreak. And then yesterday, we led the entire game. We were up 3-0. And then it was 3-2. They tied it, and they tied it on a couple of errors. To be honest with you, we should have won it 3-0 in regulation, but we had a couple of miscues. And against a team as good as UIndy, you have very slim margin for error. They rarely beat themselves, and we ended up going up 4-3 in the top of the eighth, and then really just a funky top of the bottom of the eighth where really bad hop at the end kind of cost us the game. They still would have been in good shape. They would have had first and third with an out or perhaps no outs. But it was an excellent softball game. And I think when we pitched Laura Bennett, who was our number one here for several years, and ironically, someone I scouted when I didn't recruit, but scouted and would have recruited when I was at West Point the year that I was a coach down there. I went to go watch the high school championships and saw a pitcher I really liked and found out that she had already committed to a school. And lo and behold, that school turns out to be LeMoyne. So I'm fast forward 3 years. I'm thankful that it was LeMoyne that she committed to because she's a heck of a pitcher, a great competitor, unflappable. And as I told her yesterday, we can beat anyone in the country with Laura Bennett on the mound. And I believe that. I believe we could beat anyone at the Division II level and an awful lot of D1s with Laura on the mound. She's very competitive, unbelievable. She's a bulldog out there, and she's got sneaky, really good stuff. And it gets better as the game goes on. And then we have some thump in our lineup this year. We have some thump. We have a really interesting mix of speed and thump, and our 2 through 6 can really do damage. They can swing the bat. And then our leadoff is one of the fastest players, Izzy Boudreau, one of our fastest players in the NE10. And
Yeah.
we have a bunch of speed at the bottom of the lineup, too. So it's pretty circular. And, I think we just need to continue to add pieces. I know we have a really good class coming in next year. And a player that I'm really high on that I know because she's my next door neighbor back in Monroe, New York. And then we have some others. And then the year after, she's got a really good class backed up. So this program is on an upward trajectory. Tracy does an outstanding job, her and her staff, with Todd Losi and also Brock Matlock and Aaliyah Wade's part of that staff. They're on the right path, and she wants to challenge her team. There's some teams that'll come down here and they'll just play cupcakes and build up their record, and they won't get back tested. And Tracy doesn't believe in that, nor do I. So I embrace the fact that we're playing a tough schedule. It'll only help us down the road.
Bob Beretta coming to us, the tan version of Bob Beretta here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios for AD and DT this morning. Going off of, and I love everything that you just broke down about, what Tracy's doing and her recruitment, not only now, but in these next couple of years already set up and the different pieces that she has as well as her staff. Going back to what they've done this season, who they've gone up against, they went up against number 18th ranked in the nation, Lincoln Memorial University, defeated them 4-3. Then they were in a loss 5-2 against the University of Alabama in Huntsville, who was 17th in the nation. And they just lost a very close game to the University of Indianapolis, number 8 in the nation, 5-4. So we're talking about a team that, like you said, can beat a lot of Division II schools and potentially go and defeat some Division I schools as well here in the NCAA. And how close they're playing, they're right there. And that's, again, what I love about Tracy is saying we're going to play these games, we're going to go up against these teams, we're going to see this really difficult talent. And, keep in mind, everybody, this is not conference play. So, this is them pushing themselves to go up against the best teams in the country and teams that she knows day in and day out can bring it in a special way. And we haven't even touched the NE10. So the thought is, and I'm sure Tracy's thought is, by the time we get to the NE10, we're going to be so battle tested that we're ready for war.
Yeah, and we're dealing with some injuries. I know all teams deal with injuries, but we have a starter that's out for the season, one of our top players, top offensive players, great leader on field, Brooke Nicholas, a local girl, and she suffered had to go through some surgery here recently, so she's out for the year. That meant we had to move our shortstop, who's also playing through injury from Dom Rinaldi from short to second base, so she's out of position to fill a hole there. We have a freshman playing shortstop, and then we have one of our other starters from last year dealing with a labrum tear, Mackenzie Koenig at third base. So she's not playing a whole lot. She's playing a little bit of defense, but she's limited to what she can do on the base pass and batting. So she's doing it with a team that's banged up the middle, and we're trying to teach some youngsters on the fly here and get their taste of college softball. And as you know, when you talk about softball adjustments, there's no greater leap from high school to college. It doesn't matter if it's Division I, II, or III. The speed of the game changes exponentially. So there's that adjustment period, an acclimation period, that when you're playing freshmen, it takes a very special freshman to be able to come in right off the bat. And we have one of those. Her name is Audrey Benarski, a first baseman out of Minnesota, originally from Central New York, and she's some serious thump that we have playing first base, DH. She can really bang it, and she's come in and really defied the odds as a freshman and made a huge impact. But it's tough. I mean, we had some really quality players last year that came in, and it took them several weeks before they were able to acclimate to the speed of the game. And it's not just the speed of pitching, it's the speed of the game. It's on the base pass, it's playing defense, taking the extra bag. It's a huge step up. So I think this team will only improve as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about what's coming up here, and I love the breakdown of that here from Bob Beretta and AD and DT, our special that we bring you every first and third Wednesday of each month during Dolphin Time exclusively in our multimedia marketing partnership with LeMoyne. Bob, we look at the baseball team as 8-8 right now, has gotten themselves fought back to 500, and we have the men's and women's lacrosse teams that are both in the nation's top. This is the top 25. Forget top 25. The top 10. Teams that have been here in the top 5 in the country to start off the season, both 4-0. Matt Vavanies, they might as well just put any 10, they might as well just put any 10 athlete of the week, have that patch on his jersey at this point. So I'd love to get your thoughts on what's going on there. I know there's a lot of sports in action, but I know to, keep it on the mound, so to speak, and go over to baseball to see what they're doing at 8-8, and then 2 lacrosse programs that are top nationally, regarded programs, and to both start off the season undefeated at 4-0 is pretty special.
Yeah, the whole spring, as you know, Dan, it's exceptional. We are set up for just an exceptional spring season. We get into some of the other sports that we haven't even touched on yet on the back end, and they're going to have outstanding seasons. But the focus on baseball, first of all, and then the two lacrosses with Scott Cassidy. Scott also playing a tough schedule early on. They take a little different approach. They went down south, played some tough regional games down in Carolina
Yeah.
and South Carolina, and now they're down in Pittsburgh this weekend for a series. Down there, they'll play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They had a series against Bloomsburg, weathered out, and then lost 3-4 to Shippensburg earlier. Again, a really good program, and really lost the 3 games each by 1 run. Could have won each one of those games. Had some pitching issues late, as that's what the early season's about. It's trying to get your roles figured out, particularly late game situations and bullpen, and making sure players are comfortable in new roles. And I think we're fighting that a little bit early on, but a big series for them this weekend, and he's got that club back to 500. Of course, it's a team that went to the NCAA regionals and had a really slow start last year and came on strong. So I think that team is really going to be exciting. They have some new arms on the mound. Billy Hoffaker's a JUCO transfer. Jordan Goldman, a young man who's starting right now in the 3 or 4 spot on the weekends, new arm as well, transferring from a school in California. And of course, we have Max Parker, who's one of the top starters in the NE10, and Jake Mazer, a senior. So we have a lot of veteran experience and some new faces that have piled up some innings at the collegiate level on the mound. I like that. We need to solidify the back end, and we have arms to do that with Stan DeGeorge and Jed Boyle and a few other folks back there that we just need to get them comfortable in new roles. And I think the lineup is going to generate runs. There's no doubt about that. We brought, Dewey Roden. We missed him last year, and talked about Thump. He's big Thump, and he's had a great year already. He was out with an injury last year, and he's a major force in the middle of that lineup for us. So he's been a major run producer. And then we have a couple of young freshmen that have done really well right off early on in their collegiate experience, which, again, it's speed of the game, and there's an adjustment period, and there's a big jump from college baseball, from high school baseball. And so we have some young players there that have really defied odds and doing well. So I'm optimistic that the baseball team will challenge for an NE10 championship this year. I really believe that. I think we have the talent both on the mound and on the offensive end. So again, Scott Cassidy really done a solid job for many, many years here at the Heights in baseball. Former big leaguer. You've had him on the show many times. Yeah. He just leads with a calming presence, and he generally just reloads it, and I think we're set up to have a really good season as well in baseball under Scott's leadership.
Yeah.
In terms of lacrosse, Dan, the lacrosse team's kind of right where you expect LeMoyne lacrosse to be, right? Yeah. The men are ranked first. The women are ranked 5th, and a huge matchup today for the ladies. I would have loved to have gone to that game if I wasn't down here in Florida. I would have gone to that one. They're out playing Westchester, and Westchester is ranked 3rd in the country. LeMoyne's ranked 5th. And, we've already defeated we defeated Mercyhurst on Saturday. They're ranked 25th in the country. And we defeated Mercy early in the year. They were number 2 when we beat them. So you talk about tough schedules early on. Both lacrosse programs have tackled some. Danny, they beat Mercy, and they were ranked 2nd in the country early when they played them. And they've had a couple of nationally ranked wins as well. So they're off until Saturday. Big matchup at Ted Grant Field. I'll be headed back. I'm actually coming back from Florida on Friday, so I can get back for that game on Saturday at Ted Grant Field. That's going to be a really critical NE10 opener for us. But before that, Liz is going to take her squad out on the field today in a key matchup, so folks can watch that on the web stream. I plan on doing that down here, and some new faces there. I'll tell you, Liz brought in. I love what both lacrosse programs and really what Scott did as well with building in the transfer portal. Dan, this is a different day and age in college athletics with the transfer portal, and the transfer portal existed before. It just, you could transfer, you just didn't have to sit out a year, and it wasn't as public with the portal itself. But when players now don't have to sit out, it's almost like open free agency. And I'm not a believer in building a program through the transfer portal. I don't believe in basketball. I don't believe in it in lacrosse. I don't believe it in baseball or softball, soccer. What I do believe, though, is using the transfer portal very expeditious. You have to be really smart in how you use it and plugging gaps. And I think Scott did that with a couple of transfers to bring some arms in key spots. just a couple to plug some gaps. Danny did that. Dan Sheehan on the men's side. You talked about Matt Vadnais. Matt is a transfer from Canisius. And you look at what Dan's roster is constructed. It's primarily of players that he brought in as first years, as freshmen, and they grow up. And the majority of those players that are making an impact for our team this year are kids that nobody knew about because they sat behind starters and grew into the program. And if you have the right culture, you're able to kind of keep those kids in the program. And certainly Dan has done that. And you look at what Liz Bethel, she did the same thing. She brought in a transfer, a local girl, a grad transfer, name her, if you haven't watched her or familiar with her, you're probably familiar with her from her high school days around here. Sarah Crandall, Sarah Goodwin, she has been unbelievable. She's fantastic. Our leading scorer, I think, so far, just speed to burn and just a nightmare for defenses to track. And again, you're not talking about 7 or 8 transfers. You're talking about being, very careful in who you bring in, making sure they fit your culture and they can make an impact. And we've done that with Sarah on the women's lacrosse side, Sarah Goodwin, and also on the men's side with Matt Vadnais.
Yeah, and I appreciate that as always. A great breakdown of this. Bob, you set the bar high, and I don't say this to boost up an ego. It's just reality. I told you I have a Bob Beretta meter now. So if I talk to an AD and they can't tell me, to the level that you tell me what's going on here, I love that. You have a love and a passion for this. I don't think you sleep. And, you have the opportunity of getting out there. You get out there. You go see the baseball team. You see the lacrosse teams. You see the softball team. You're there with the basketball team on the road in the national tournament. You're on Ted Grant Field. You're on Ted Grant Court. You're going to see the tennis team wherever they go. You're going to go see golf. You're going to go see swimming and diving. I mean, you have made it a point to get out and support everybody, which, shows that team, that Finn family, that leadership, and that connection. And to the credit of President Dr. Linda Lemura, a lot of presidents you don't see sitting on the sidelines of anything. And she makes her way out to these games, and she'll go and speak to teams during practices and just pop in and say hello. So the Heights is definitely hopping, and for the right reasons. 10-6 for the women's tennis team, 5-1 for the men's tennis team. I want to mention that with Jeff Lonzak as well. The only loss that the men's team has is to a Division I Buffalo team that they decided to compete against. So again, we could see these coaches demanding greatness from their teams and putting themselves through these really big tests and trials. So, it's a great spring, even though there's like 2 feet of snow outside. So it's definitely interesting. But, Bob, I want to thank you for making it a point to make all these coaches and student athletes feel really special and appreciated, because a lot of ADs do not do what you do, and a lot of presidents don't do what Linda does. So, beyond everything else we could talk about this morning, it's an honor and a privilege to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of LeMoyne, because it's not just working with a school that has some good teams, it's working with a school that has a lot of good teams, better people, and, the leadership it's something to, when I'm tired, and I say to myself, and my dad and my mom are like, go to sleep. You've been up till 3 a.m. for 3 weeks now. When I'm tired, I always turn around and go, yeah, but Bob's doing it. So that's my excuse to go to another game. So thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you for your incredible support of what we do here. And, when it's a passion, it's not work, right? And I don't think you feel like you've worked a day in your life, and I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life. I'm a fan, I'm a fan of LeMoyne athletics, and I'm all in. So for me, I want to go watch our teams play because, hey, I get to do this job. I'm blessed to have the opportunity that hundreds of people would want to have this job. And the best part of my job is to go out and watch our student athletes pursue their passions. And that's why I can give you a summary and give you names, because I'm a fan of those programs and I want to go support those people. And like yesterday, I go out and the ladies are thanking me, and I kind of look at them sideways. I'm like, thank you for being out here and chasing your passion. It gives me an opportunity to get out of the office and come and support you and watch you pursue your passion. And so I love it. I'm a big fan, and I'll try and get out. I've been out. I tried to count the other day. I've been on the road for probably about 80% of our teams that have been in competition already this year. And I'll try and get out to a few more here in the spring that I haven't hit. But it's not like a checklist that I got that one off. And it's, I want to, I'm fired up. I love to watch our teams excel and chase championships, because that's what we're all about. We're all about chasing championships, pursuing excellence, and excellence both in the classroom and on the athletic fields. And I think we set that bar pretty high, and it's all, the tone is set from leadership, from Dr. Lemura, and I try to carry that through the athletic department, and by showing that you care, it creates culture, and I get to develop relationships. And at the end of the day, it's really why I wanted to come back to a smaller school and leave West Point, was to come back as an athletic director, try to make a difference in these young people's lives. But more important, selfishly, I wanted to build relationships because I love being around young people. That's why I love coaching on the travel side and at West Point. I just love the interaction. And to me, to be able to get out and watch them on the road, just, I don't know, it adds a different level of care. And I think there are ADs that probably don't even get out at home and watch events. And I asked myself why they're in the profession. Why are they even showing up once a week? I don't want to be the athletic director that an athlete leaves and says, "Oh, I didn't even know who my AD was for 4 years." And I've heard that a lot in the past. And that's never going to be me, or at least it won't be me if I can avoid it. And I won't get to know all 385 of our student athletes personally. I try, but it's difficult when you have larger rosters, and sometimes we don't have facilities on campus with some of those sports, so it makes it a little more difficult because I can't go out to practices and watch them at practices. Yeah. That's where I help try to build relationships as well. So it's a great job. It's a passion. I love it. I love being here at the Heights. I love our young people. They're so respectful. They're so driven, and they have their priorities right. And that's what makes it such a joy for me to be around them, because this is very important to them, but it's not the most important thing. And I think that's the way athletics should be. It was that way at West Point, and it's that way here at LeMoyne as well.
And I love that. And I appreciate all those words and sentiments. I know you got to go, but I got to hit you with a really quick thing here, because I think it's insane, and it's going to be my annoying moment of the week this week. So I'm kind of letting y'all know a couple days in advance. Merrimack was the number one team in the NEC for Division I men's basketball. Number one seed, played in the conference tournament, won the conference tournament, and because of a 4-year purgatory of going D2 to D1, they couldn't advance to the tournament. Agree or disagree with what I think is an insane rule? I just wanted your thoughts.
Could not agree more, Dan. Could not agree more. We saw it last year with Bellarmine and the Atlantic Sun, and the Atlantic Sun actually rewarded the regular season champion, and that champion wasn't even in the title game. Bellarmine won the title game. The team that it defeated, I forget which team it was right now out of the A Sun, but they ended up going, and it wasn't the regular season champion. So we saw the same thing. I mean, it was the regular season champion. It wasn't the tournament runner-up. Whereas the NEC, I think, did it a little bit differently this year, where Merrimack was unable to go. They won the tournament, won the regular season, so they swept both titles. Yeah. Could not go because they were in the 4th year of the reclassification period. And Fairleigh Dickinson, which lost in the title game, gets rewarded. They kind of back into the championship. And I know that's a little bit anticlimactic. And I don't like the rule at all. How about Merrimack? Merrimack goes into the NEC in its 4-year classification period. Its first year wins a regular season championship. They could not compete for the tournament title that year because the NEC had a 4-year waiting period in the tournament. So they won the only championship they could compete for in their first year. And then their 4th year, they sweep the regular season and the tournament title. So if teams don't think that any 10 teams can go in and compete at the mid-major level immediately, I think Merrimack is a great example of that. And I despise the rule. I would hope that it gets adjusted. I think it's punitive to the student athlete. It's everything that we as administrators in this enterprise are trying to fight against. We're trying to improve the student athlete experience. I think this is very punitive. I think there are measures that can be taken to reduce that to at least a 2-year period from a 4-year period. I would hope that that'll be looked at. I know conferences have put together legislation to try to get that approved, waivers, things of that nature. I hope that conversation continues, because I think it's my annoying moment of the year, not of the week, Dan, because, we're all about trying to improve student athlete experience. And I don't know that there's a great reason why there's a 4-year reclassification period. I was told why. I just don't happen to agree with it.
Yeah. And Stonehill just reclassified from the NE10 Division II to the NEC Division I, and they finished in the top 3 in the NEC. So Merrimack was 1, Stonehill was 3, and both of them are being punished for becoming Division I programs. So it makes absolutely no sense. I want to get your thoughts on it. with everything in the background as well with LeMoyne. So as always, Bob, I appreciate it. Appreciate you. Go enjoy my second home professionally and personally. Get some sun. And the next time you buy a ticket to Florida and you don't call me, I'm gonna have some problems. So
Well, I know you've been down here quite a bit, so I'm going to try to stow away with you on one of your many trips down here to support the Jags. But I'll tell you, my trip down here, you might not have been wanting to be with me. I checked in my hotel at 6:15 on Monday morning after leaving Syracuse. Supposedly, initially, I was due out at 7:53. It got delayed several hours, and then really the worst car rental experience of my life, 2.5 hours trying to get a car. Who would have thought there'd be a line at 3 a.m. But the weather down here in Orlando on Monday was horrible, and it created a backlog. So I don't think you would have wanted to be with me on Monday when I rolled in here. Actually, it would have been Tuesday morning at 6:15. Got a couple hours of sleep, went out for a run, and then went out and tried to catch some sun at the softball games.
well, I will tell you that down in Greensboro this past week, I had a better rental car experience than some of the other ones that I have had. And they asked me when I was supposed to get an economy car, a small car. It's just me. And I was like, whatever. And so they looked at me. They're like, do you want a sports car? And I was like,
I
yeah.
saw what you were driving. I
Yeah.
saw I
Yeah.
saw a post.
Red.
I had a bull there, and I saw that.
Yeah,
That
I
was
had a
pretty
little red
cool.
Mustang, and Bob, I think the statute of limitations is over since I'm back up here. But I gave a little bit of that heat to that Greensboro highway, so I safely had a very nice time in my red Mustang. So as always, Bob Beretta, one of the greatest out there to do it when it comes to leadership in any world, in my opinion, not just athletics. So thank you to Bob for what you're doing. And big shout out to Tracy Roman and the LeMoyne softball team being down there with them, to the baseball team, the lacrosse teams in action, tennis, of course, and everything coming up. We have golf we have what's coming up with golf. We have what's coming up with soccer. So many amazing things are going to be happening on the Heights. They've already started. Spring is awesome, even though it's still winter. And Bob, as always, I appreciate you and the work that you do. So thanks for spending some time with me here. And I hope it clears up for you so you can, all jokes aside, I hope one of us can enjoy sun and a little bit of heat right now.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to spend. Always great, Dan. Thanks for what you do, and as always, fins up.
Fins up. We'll talk soon.